Hi, I'm Joy Lowe, and we are looking through the book of Zephaniah. Chapter 1, verse 1 says that Zephaniah prophesied during the days of Josiah. But I want to look at some historical background just to give us an overview of what was happening in Judah in the time before Josiah. And I want to start out with Manasseh, who would have been Josiah's grandfather. And he is mentioned in 2 Chronicles chapter 33, verse 1 through 20. And he was one of the most evil kings of Judah. And because of him, if you remember from when you studied Kings and Chronicles, it was because of him that Judah was going into exile, God said. He was so horrible because he worshipped so many idols. He made altars for Baal, the sacred poles. He did witchcraft. He made the image of Asherah in the temple and to the host of heaven. He even sacrificed his own son in the fire. And so he was an extremely horrible king. But at the end of his life, he did repent and turn back to God, as we see in 2 Chronicles. And then came his next son. The next king was Amon. And he's in 2 Chronicles 33, 21 through 25. He only reigned for 2 years, but he followed in the footsteps of his father, Manasseh, in the bad aspect. He never turned to God, but he led the people of Judah back into idolatry. He abandoned God. He didn't obey the covenant. And he never turned to God, so he was a horrible king. But then we have Josiah. And I'm going to be reading a look at a handout that you have, which is on the website called the Chronologically of Josiah. And I just want to look at the part that's in 2 Chronicles 34 through 35:27. And here's a little bit of a summary of his life. Well, in the 8th year of his reign, when he was 16 years old, Josiah sought God. And then in the 12th year of his reign, in 628, Josiah purged Judah and Jerusalem of the high places. And there's a long list of all the idols and gods that he purged out of the land. And then in the 18th year of his reign, in 622 BC, the book of the law was found in the temple. And then Josiah's response to that was, oh, the wrath of God is coming to us. So then he sent some of his leaders to go to the prophetess and say, what's happening? What is God going to do? And she said, God's wrath is coming because they had forsaken the God of Israel, and yet because of Josiah's response that God would delay the judgment during his time. And so in the end of chapter 34, Josiah makes a covenant with the people that they will follow God and do his commandments. So the people follow God all the days of Josiah, and Josiah keeps the Passover. So this is a situation that Zephaniah is prophesying into. And it's probably most likely that he prophesied during the early part of Josiah's reign. And the reason for that is because we can look at the internal evidence that is listed in the book of Zephaniah. And the sins that are recorded that would be judged. And those are, in chapter 1, verse 1, there's a mention of Baal worship. In chapter 1, verse 5, there's a mention of the host of heavens and Mecum worship. And also in chapter 3, verse 3 through 5, there's a mention of that the religious and civil leaders were corrupt. And so we saw that during the beginning of Josiah's reign that these things existed until the 12th year of his reign, when he purged Judah and Jerusalem of all the high places. There are some repeated words or ideas in the book of Zephaniah. The first one I want to mention is the day of the Lord, or it's also at that time, or on that day. It's repeated 22 times. And then the theme that's in most of the prophets is restoration, which is the end of Zephaniah, of course, sin, and then judgment. Well, who is the judgment listed in Zephaniah? You have specific nations, and then you have a general or cosmic or the whole earth judgment. And this is called telescopic prophecy, where the prophet sees near on the nations now and into the very distant future, which would be the age to come, or the second coming. So the big picture of the book is the day of the Lord is coming. It is for the original audience, the original reader, which I think were the same. God is saying choose judgment or choose restoration. It is your choice.